Welcome to this deep dive. We're here to help you get truly informed on the big stories. And today, well, we're dissecting a pretty dense stack of news and reports. There's been a major escalation in the Middle East. Our job, really, is to unpack this rapid sequence of events for you. The immediate fallout, what it all means, cutting through the noise to get to the core facts.
Exactly. And we're drawing from quite a range of sources here, international news agencies, official government statements, watchdog reports too. The aim is to give you a clear, factual picture of these developments. We're talking the U.S., Israel, Iran, and just present the material as it stands. No taking sides. We just want to help you grasp what's actually unfolding in this very complex situation.
Okay, let's unpack this then. It all seems to pivot around June 21st, 2025. That date marks a really critical shift. It's the first time we've actually seen direct U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, and that was followed almost immediately by a swift Iranian counterstrike. So we'll walk you through how that happened, who's involved, and crucially, the immediate consequences. For civilians, for regional stability, it's a lot. So let's start with those initial U.S. actions. June 21st, President Trump gives the order. U.S. military launches airstrikes. The targets: 3 key Iranian nuclear sites: Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Now, these aren't minor locations. Fordo, that's the one buried deep underground, right? Natanz is their main uranium enrichment plant, and Isfahan handles uranium conversion. But hitting all 3, that's significant.
Oh, absolutely. Targeting those 3 simultaneously goes right to the heart of their declared nuclear program. It's a major statement. And the reports mention B-2 stealth bombers, these powerful bunker buster weapons.
Right, so this isn't just symbolic. They're using specific tech designed to hit deep, hardened facilities, trying to ensure destruction.
Precisely. While also, presumably, trying to limit surface damage, though that's always a risk. And President Trump's language was stark. He said the sites were, quote, completely and fully obliterated.
Yeah, completely and fully obliterated. And he added that warning, didn't he? More action if peace wasn't achieved.
He did. Now, whether they were truly fully obliterated, damage assessments are complex. The UN's atomic watchdog, the IAEA, did report quickly. Interestingly, they reported no radiation leaks, which is, well, a crucial point given the targets.
A small mercy in all this, perhaps?
Perhaps. They also urged immediate de-escalation. But what's fascinating, as you said, is the speed of Iran's reaction. Their foreign minister was out almost immediately, condemned the strikes as outrageous, violations of international law, vowed everlasting consequences, reserving all options. That speed tells you something.
It suggests they were ready, doesn't it? Like maybe they anticipated something like this or had responses planned?
It certainly suggests a very high state of alert, a very low threshold for reaction. They weren't waiting for detailed assessments, it seems.
Okay, so the U.S. strikes happen, the world sort of holds its breath. But Iran doesn't wait long at all. Within hours, they launch their own counterstrike. A coordinated wave, reports say, missiles and drones. And the targets: Israeli cities. Specifically Tel Aviv and Haifa.
Right, major population centers. And the immediate impact was felt. Dozens wounded reported. Air raid sirens blaring across those cities. Imagine the panic, the chaos on the ground.
Terrible, but Israel has sophisticated air defenses, doesn't it? Iron Dome, David Sling.
They do. And reports indicate those systems intercepted many of the incoming threats. They definitely mitigated the damage, prevented potentially far worse outcomes. Israeli officials later confirmed that, stating that Iran's missile arsenal is now, quote, strained, and that many launchers were allegedly destroyed, perhaps in subsequent actions or as part of the initial defense.
Okay, strained but perhaps not eliminated. Now, you mentioned something earlier, connecting this to the bigger picture, the regional involvement.
Yes. This is really interesting. Reports surfaced that Jordan and possibly even Saudi Arabia helped Israel, either by actively intercepting Iranian drones or missiles, or perhaps allowing overflight for interceptors.
Jordan and Saudi Arabia assisting Israel, even indirectly. That feels huge. What does that tell us?
It's incredibly significant if confirmed. It suggests a kind of pragmatic realignment, maybe, driven by a shared perception of Iran as a threat. These aren't traditional allies of Israel, not openly anyway. So, seeing them potentially cooperate on defense like this, it suggests shared security concerns might be temporarily overriding older regional politics.
A case of the enemy of my enemy, perhaps?
Could be. Or just a very stark calculation about regional stability and the potential fallout of unchecked Iranian military action. It definitely points to shifting dynamics.
Okay, let's shift to the diplomatic front, because the military action wasn't happening in a vacuum. President Trump set that 2-week deadline, right? Peace or potentially more U.S. strikes. That's a pretty aggressive timeline.
Very aggressive. A high-stakes ultimatum, really. pushing for a rapid resolution, or maybe laying the groundwork to justify further action. But contrast that with other views. Our sources suggest Israeli leaders were pushing to act more immediately, especially regarding that Fordo site. They seemed concerned about lingering threats there, didn't want to wait 2 weeks.
So, pressure from different directions. What about Iran's stance on diplomacy?
Well, Iranian diplomats pretty much rejected any U.S. talks under the current conditions. Their line was clear. The conflict has to stop first. No negotiations under duress. Meanwhile, you had European powers trying to keep the diplomatic channels open. Reports mentioned efforts to explore nuclear talks again, maybe in Geneva.
So, a push for diplomacy, but seemingly running parallel to or even against the military escalations and hardline stances.
Exactly. It shows this ongoing, desperate attempt by some parts of the international community to find an off-ramp, even as things were heating up on the ground.
And heating up barely covers it when you look at the human cost. We really need to talk about that because beyond the strategy and the geopolitics, people are suffering. There was that awful report about the hospital in Beersheba.
Yes, the Soroka Medical Center.
Yeah.
An Iranian missile strike hit it directly. Patients and staff injured, structural damage, and apparently a chemical leak resulted, forcing a complete evacuation of the hospital.
Hitting a hospital, that's just devastating. A clear violation, surely.
It would certainly seem so under international humanitarian law. And the impact goes beyond direct hits. Inside Iran, reports described mass civilian displacement. Tehran, other cities, people fleeing northwards. Tens of thousands, apparently, driven by fear and warnings of more airstrikes. That creates immense internal pressure and suffering.
And then there were those other reports about journalists' families.
Right. Iran International News reported that family members of their journalist inside Iran had been detained. It looks like a clear and, frankly, chilling attempt to suppress independent coverage of the war to control the narrative.
Wow. So pressure from outside and crackdowns inside.
And adding to that internal tension, there were reports that Supreme Leader Khamenei was looking at possible successors, which suggests, concerns about leadership stability, maybe fears of targeted strikes or internal upheaval. It just shows how deep and multifaceted the impact of this conflict is. It's not just military targets.
No, it touches every level. So this deep dive, it really paints a picture of a moment of profound volatility, doesn't it? A huge shift. Direct U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear sites, swift Iranian retaliation against Israel. Nations across the region reacting in complex, sometimes unexpected ways. Defensive moves, diplomatic pushes, and all the while, civilians are caught in the middle, suffering immensely as the conflict zones expand.
Absolutely. And based on these initial exchanges from our sources, there's no clear winner. No decisive blow seems to have been landed yet. But every single move seems to ratchet up the risk of this escalating even further, pulling in more actors, the speed of it all, the wide-ranging impacts. It's crucial to grasp this sequence because it could really set a dangerous new precedent.
So, thinking about you, our listener, trying to make sense of this flood of information, what does it all mean? Given the speed, the awful civilian toll we're seeing, these very different approaches to stopping the fighting, it really makes you wonder, what new challenges does this pose for trying to prevent even wider conflict, especially when information and maybe disinformation spreads so incredibly fast?
That's the critical question, isn't it? Watching how the diplomatic, military, and crucially the humanitarian efforts unfold in the next few days will be vital. And perhaps more than ever, the challenge for all of us is to sift through the noise, to find reliable, factual information. So we really encourage you, keep seeking out diverse, credible sources. Stay informed. It's the most important thing you can do right now.